Welcome to today's broadcast of North Idaho College Public Forum. The crew is comprised of NIC television students, and your moderator is North Idaho College political scientist Tony Stewart.
A number of the Northwest states in 1989 and 1990 will be celebrating their centennial. Many of the Northwest states came into the Union about the same time, at least in one of those 2 years. We will be, in the months ahead, helping or assisting to celebrate those centennials in those various states, and we'd like to talk to you about such states as Montana, Idaho, and Washington. It's our pleasure to kick off that goal by talking about the centennial of Idaho, and we're going to emphasize today a particular part of the state, Kootenai County, Idaho, with Coeur d'Alene located in that county for you who are from other parts and might not be very familiar with our county. I'm happy to welcome to the program two guests today, and they both come to us from the Kootenai County, Idaho Centennial Committee, and they've been very gracious to come by to tell you about some of the events, and we would like to invite people from throughout the Northwest to help us in North Idaho celebrate this special year. Our first guest is the chair of the Kootenai County, Idaho Centennial Committee, Mr. Bob Nelson, and with him is the executive director of that committee, Mary Wagner. Welcome to both of you, and we're delighted that you took time to be with us.
Good. Pleasure.
And as always, I'm happy to have regular panelist Janelle Berg, who is an attorney in Idaho, and I shall ask her to commence the questioning.
Mr. Nelson, can you tell us what is the organization of the Centennial Committee, both at the state level and also at the local level?
Okay, basically, first of all, the state, which is a commission headed by Harry Magnuson, he's the chairman of the commission. They have within the commission a number of committees, generally around functional lines, arts and humanities, history, living legacy. There's a number of them, and each of those committees handles various aspects of it. They also have, which has been getting a lot of activity of late, a licensing committee which handles the use of all the centennial logos and the trademarks that go with it, so that hopefully people won't get the idea you can just go ahead and paint it on the side of the barn. You have to get some permission to do that, and their concern, of course, is use of it improperly in a commercial mode, and so that's one of their large functions down there. Probably one of the biggest that benefits us is the sale of the centennial license plates throughout the state of Idaho. Each county receives 15% of the money that's gained through that. In our particular case, for 1987 and 1988 fiscal years, we've received over $21,000, which is going toward all the various projects we're going to talk about shortly. At the state or at the county level, probably the best way to deal with it is a little history. Okay. It kind of like Topsy, it just growed. Back about November of 1986, Harry Magnuson sent out an invitation, let's say, to each of the counties, saying we're going to have this birthday party in a few years. We'd like you to begin doing something. It was sent to the county commissioners, and asking them to establish an organization, whether it be within the county government or as a volunteer group. That task was given to Commissioner Evelyn Adams, who started having some just kind of skull session meetings in the latter part of '86, early 1987, and there were a handful of us, probably 10 or 15 at that time, who said, okay, sure, we're interested, we'll give it a try. Somehow in that saying you're interested and I'll give it a try, somehow became the chairman. At any rate, and about that time, and this is what's kind of critical to how it's organized, a group of very enthusiastic people from just west of here in Spokane came to us and said, hey, we are going to try to build a trail along the Spokane River to celebrate our centennial in 1989, and we thought it'd be sure nice if you guys would like to do the same thing and just pick it up and take it on into Coeur d'Alene. We said, well, you know, that's a nice idea, but there are a lot of problems. Let's look at it. We'll get back to you and let you know. We had probably then Our first formal meeting of the committee as it's structured, and there was probably 30 or 40 people there in April of 1987. We presented the idea. Everybody said, yep, let's do it. Since that time, we've spent ungodly amounts of time and energy, all volunteer work, on the Centennial Trail. It's gone from an idea to a feasibility study to a federal grant for $1.35 million, which requires us to match with about little over $1 million of our own funds, which can be donated land, donated materials, labor, what have you. Of that, we're probably going to raise $250,000 in cash. We're just about that far, but we're on our way and going. The design has been pretty much finalized. We've selected an architect and engineering firm. That contract's still being negotiated, so I won't get into that at this point. We plan to break ground on the trail as soon as the weather permits. It's going to be a super project. Now, back to organization, which was the original question. So for maybe 6 to 8 months, the Centennial Committee was the Centennial Trail. And then and one of the reasons we did that, this was 1987, it was the Coeur d'Alene City Centennial, and everybody would get very confused, and they said, now, which Centennial are you? So we said, let's kind of lay back in the weeds, let's work on the trail, it's going to take a lot of effort, and then 1988 we'll get rolling. At about that point then, we structured it with, we have a number of standing committees, we have arts and humanities, we have history, we have sports and games, we have education. Those are the standard kind of core things, and they encompass lots of little things within them. Then we've also kind of given us this committee, subcommittee status, the major projects, the Centennial Trail, the Mullen Military Road, which is a very important thing, and that type of thing. Then we've also said, okay, each community, the representative is another. Post Falls has been extremely active. Bayview has been extremely active. I think Coeur d'Alene will be now that they've gotten over the burnout from their own Centennial. So at this point, there's about 12 active subcommittees and about 90 people that are going at full bore trying to get this thing together in the next, well, 11 months.
And one of the most important people, I'm sure, is your executive director, Mary. Mary, what do you do specifically?
Basically,
everything.
Coordinate. I'm the only paid person on the staff, and my position was made possible through the efforts of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the city, the county, and the Centennial Committee. And my purpose is to coordinate all the efforts that are going on, provide staff support and communication among the different groups that are working.
And so it's you who put together brochures, such as the brochure that you have, and maybe you can tell us where you can obtain a copy of that brochure.
Right now we're down to just a stack about that high at the gallery, which Bob runs, and we will get some more of those available. They can call the gallery at 667-2898 or the Convention and Visitors Bureau at 664-0587 and get more copies of those, and also volunteer for efforts involved with the Centennial at those numbers.
You sound like an executive director. You're already recruiting.
Well, we had fun with the brochure because everybody was talking about, well, we got to get this, and it's going to be $12,000 for this and so much for this. So I decided that Mary and I just build this one afternoon down at the gallery, and we did, and she put it on the machine. We ran it, and it's the most popular thing in the state of Idaho right now.
I think one thing that we need to do, because our viewing audience is not a limited one, it goes out through the Northwest states and into Canada, both British Columbia and Alberta. And I just sense that there are a number of people who will be viewing this program that would like to come to our county and our cities and help us celebrate this. So I think it'd be very productive today if we talked about some of the events. I know Bob mentioned a list of committees and so forth. Mary, I think I will start with you, if you don't mind. And can we talk about a number? I know that some of those are still in the planning stages, but give us some idea of the kind of things that are going to be available to the public during this year.
The There's everything from sporting events to arts events, participatory ones, spectator ones that they can be involved in, educational things. Starting on February 25th, the Living History Project will kick off with a workshop for anyone who's interested. For $10, they can come and learn those techniques that are involved in oral history, interviewing, how to get someone to tell you the things that are most fascinating about their history. We're encouraging teachers to get involved in that because we want to infiltrate the school system with the idea of taping oral histories. We'd like anybody who maybe has a grandmother or a grandfather or aunt and uncle, somebody in the family, they'd like to document their story. Anybody who wants to tape and trap history as it's walking around right now, to come to that. Of course, the marathon, the triathlon are two premier athletic events that take place in Kootenai County that people can participate in and come watch. Lake City Days, which has just been officially changed in honor of Fred Murphy to something Fred Murphy Days. We're not sure what that final name will be. That will give people a chance to take place or take part in a parade. There will be different races that they can be involved in with that. Depends on what your interests are. We'll probably kick the whole celebration off at Fort Sherman Days in 1990, which will be April 20th and 21st. We're looking at planning a historical pageant, art shows, culminating all of the efforts with the Living History Project, showcasing those efforts there, and honoring the fact that this place started as a military base a long time ago. Military base? I don't know if that was
Close.
yeah,
Fort, yeah.
old-fashioned military base.
Actually, it started as Camp Coeur d'Alene. Then it became Fort Sherman after the general died.
We're doing this show somewhat early, but we wanted the viewers to tune in early with this subject. But I know there'll be much more specific dates, and there'll be programs produced and so forth.
It basically is your major activities here will run from, say, Fort Sherman Days in April, mid-April, up the marathon, and Lake City, where Fred Murphy Days is Memorial Day weekend, to there'll be a Volks March up at 4th of July Pass, which part of the Mullen Road dedication, which I'd like to get in because it involves more than one county. And then the triathlon in August are your main things that people see, and everything will be kind of in between those. Then there'll be some going to be a major effort in November to have a homecoming reunion for everyone.
And that's the year 1990.
1990. And most of these events occur in 1989 as well, because they're ongoing things which have taken on the centennial mark. And
But there'll be a special emphasis in 1990, and also you'll have
Yes.
some extra things that
Yes.
normally you don't
like
have.
Fort Sherman Days is one day this year. It'll be 2 days in 1990. It'll be a much bigger production.
Very good. Janelle Burke.
Well, Mary, starting with you, how can we recognize when it's a centennial event, or when it has, do you have an official stamp, or for those events that take place year after year, that are yearly affairs, will you have some particular way of denoting that this is the centennial celebration of that particular event?
Right. There is a logo that's been copyrighted by the state, and it's on the front of the brochure. It's blue and red, and Celebrate Idaho. It's one of the cleanest, I think it is the cleanest logo of all the area states that are celebrating centennials. In order for someone to use that logo, they need to go through our committee, and we will submit to the state an application for approval to use that. So they're very careful about which events and which products are allowed to use
But
that.
that will denote any centennial activity.
And there are, it's my understanding, also some kind of brochures that the state publishes as well that indicates activities that are taking place throughout
Probably
the
should
state.
cover that. We just received, and it's a kind of a first draft, although it's a very glossy production, of the state centennial calendar. The primary purpose, and it's a limited run of about 25,000. We've got, I think, 2 between us. And its intent was, hey, look, are you on it? If you're not on it, let us know, because the big one's coming out in September. So about mid-September of this year, there'll be 500,000 of them published, and they'll be in all your travel and tourism locations, chambers of commerce throughout the state. People that write in from out of state to any chamber or any centennial committee will get one back in the mail. It'll just be and it will cover everything in every county in Idaho. There's also and I don't know the numbers, there is available a 6-state calendar of the top 100 events in all 6 states for '89 and '90, which is available to people who ask through the tourism places.
And so if I, as a tourist, want to travel somewhere and I want to know what's going on, and particularly in Kootenai County, then I can contact someone like you and find out what events are going on. And I take it that you have made an effort to have a large overview, that is to have a sampling of all different kinds of things. So Mary, can you tell us a bit more about some history events that are going to take place? Since this is a centennial event, can you suggest another history event?
Fort Sherman Days for sure is a historic event. Some of the projects that we've got going on, more so than events, some projects are the Centennial Photo Project, which will be an effort to collect 500 photos and copy those and send those around through the county, 7 different exhibits, so that people can go to those and see some of the private photos that other people have in their collections. And then they will go from there on display to a collection at the Museum of North Idaho. The Newspaper Archive Project is funding the efforts of a group of people who want to complete a collection of all the old county newspapers that is now in existence at the Hayden Lake Library. And with the additional rolls, when we get those, we'll have a collection valued at over $8,000. And there's been interest in that collection already from overseas. A fellow from Switzerland called and, wanted information about that collection to do some research. So those kinds of efforts are being made to preserve history. One of the things that the tourists also will be encouraged to watch for is a decal that will be big and blue and have a silver star in the center. It says Idaho Host on it, and that is a hospitality program that's being pushed by the Centennial, funded by the Centennial. Any employer who sends at least 50% of his employees through the Idaho Host training program will get one of these decals. His employees will wear Idaho Host pins, and the promotional push going out about that is look for these decals. These people know about the Centennial. They know about what's going on in Idaho. And there are training sessions available at NIC and throughout the county for that program. So that's a good way for everybody to find out what's going on throughout the state.
Well, it's certainly clear that a lot of activities are going to go on. I think something that's very interesting about your committee, in addition to having activities, which I've been emphasizing because of people who can come in and see those, the key thing too is something that often you don't see are the projects, and those projects will be with us after the celebration. That will be available in such places as the museum. Bob, earlier you talked about the Mullen Road, and I know that's apparently one of the projects that's very dear to your heart. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what that's going to do and how the other counties are going to be involved and how people can participate in that?
Well, participation, be kind of admiring it after it's all done, but as a part of it, kind of, there's a lot of serendipity in these things. The work at 4th of July Pass on Interstate 90 happened about the time we were getting all these plans going, and so we were asked by Forest Service and the Transportation Department did we want to participate in some kind of effort with the mullen tree up at 4th of July Pass, and first of all evaluate what could we do with the tree, because through age and weather and vandalism there wasn't an awful lot left of the poor old thing. So we said sure, by all means, and a lot of the people on our committee are the same people that are involved in those Forest Service projects. So we said sure, let's get on with it, and the first thing we need to do is deal with the mullen tree. Well, it was unfortunate. It had reached the point where there was no way to save it. The portion of the tree that had the blaze on it was preserved over the last winter and is now down at the Museum of North Idaho where it can be seen. Coming from that, there's a total of 7 statues, and I regret I don't have the gentleman's name that donated them many, many years ago. He was a fan of Captain John Mullen, and he had 7 statues commissioned of the captain in his field garb of the day, and they were given to each of the cities along the way, and there's one in St. Mary's, there's one in Post Falls, there's one in Coeur d'Alene, there's one in Mullen, obviously Wallace, and so on, plus the one at 4th of July Pass. And so we thought it would be a nice approach to, one, try to retrace and identify the trail wherever we could. There are parts of it you can find, some parts you can't find, and develop interpretive signs so people can say, oh yeah, okay, this is where the original I-90 went. And to go along with this, of course, involves Shoshone County, where a lot of it is. We've tried to, and it's still not completely done, but we've been working with the state of Montana because it goes all the way out into the western part of Montana, or the eastern part. Also into Washington, although Washington's pretty well set and they're kind of in gear, and gee, it would have been a nice idea if you told us a couple of years ago, but we're already there. So what we're going to be doing as part of this will be to restore where necessary, and that's the 4th of July, the biggest thing, and that's being donated by a Spokane, Washington firm, the restoration. Then we're going to rededicate all the 7 statues. Part of that, the city of Mullen in Shoshone County has planned to, and now it's pretty well set in concrete, inviting the Mullen relatives, the family from the East Coast, for the show. It'll be part of it. We're going to, I don't know that you're familiar with the Coeur d'Alene Volks Sport Club, the walking, jogging group that has formed over the last year or so. Their mid-year walk will be at the 4th of July Pass, 10-kilometer. It'll be part of the thing, and they are one of the centennial events. If you like to walk, that'll be a good place to go out and enjoy the woods and see some of history. Part of that, and part of the Centennial Trail, there will be small historical brochures written by local people and published by ourselves to have available for people who are interested in it. Another thing that well, okay, that's enough.
Well, that's really interesting. That's really helpful, because I know we have a lot of people that are just such devout students of history, and this is going to give them something very special, and you've done an excellent job.
I want to plug our flag program, but we get a chance.
Okay, thank you, Janelle.
Why don't I just ask you to do that?
Okay, we announced, I guess it was 15 days ago, there was press releases, and we mailed out copies of the release and the cover letter to all the school districts, and we've invited anybody who's a current resident of Kootenai County to submit between now and the 31st of March a design for a Kootenai County flag. And those designs will be judged by the county commissioners, and we'll pick one. There's a $100 cash prize plus the recognition of being the author of the official flag. And we're going to go out and recruit some merchandise prizes for the 2nd and 3rd place. But I'd kind of like to encourage anybody that's got an idea, and we'd like something that kind of captures the magic of our area, and keep it simple so you can spot it at 100 yards, and it should be a winner. It'd be great, and we're looking forward to see what's going to come in.
Well, certainly along that line, the Centennial license plates have been very, very popular. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to recognize what's happening. Can people still purchase license plates? And also, can you tell us something about the Idaho license plate? Mary? Yes,
they can. They can purchase those right now. Whenever their license plates are up, they can certainly purchase more license plates. It's a $25 initial fee, and then $10 every year thereafter for renewal of that. But they were recognized as a top design in the country as well. And the whole Celebrate Idaho logo and design has gotten recognition. Now the state of Minnesota has got a logo very similar that's Celebrate Minnesota as well. So it's been recognized as a effective and popular design.
I'd also like to come back to the Centennial Trail, because I do feel that that's one of the things that's going to be with us for a long time, and a significant contribution, both to this particular celebration and also for the future. Can you tell us a little bit about where it's going to actually be physically located, Mary?
It will start at State Line, and it will wind along the course, basically follow the course of the Spokane River, some cases being closer to the highway than others, some cases being further away, and end up at Higgins Point. It's about 20 miles.
And what do you foresee, Bob, that people will be able to do on the trail? Will it be a walking trail, a bicycling trail?
Yes, it's very specifically, it'll be walking, jogging, bicycle in the wintertime, in some areas cross-country skiing where it's appropriate. It is definitely not for any motorized vehicles. Part of the commitment that the committee and I personally took on when we said we'd even think about doing this is that there has to be a maintenance entity and responsibility come 1991 when all the enthusiasm is wandered off into the woods, and now we've got to take care of it. So that's a very key part of it. At this point in time, the cities of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, and Kootenai County are negotiating a joint powers agreement which would make them, the owners of the trail, responsible for ongoing maintenance, policing of it, and so on and so forth. I think an important definition needs to be established in that the trail project as it's currently laid out, and what the money that the federal government, through the efforts of Larry Craig and Jim McClure, and I really have to thank them, they were very beneficial, is for construction only. So this does not go for anything other than that 12-foot wide paved piece of ground.
I have to interrupt there. I wish we could continue, but I have the signal that time is up, and on behalf of our staff and Janelle, I want to thank both Bob and Mary for your appearance. It's been most informative.
Well, good. Next time we have another 30 minutes, we've got another 30.
Wonderful. I'm sure, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more information for you as we reach close to 1990. I hope you've enjoyed our program. I'm sure you have. And I would like to invite you to be with us again at the same time next week. And until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
North Idaho College Public Forum can be seen at the same time each week over this station. This production was videotaped earlier by an NIC student crew for viewing at this more appropriate time.